In today's video, we will be reacting to his story. I am subscribed. I love this guy. Yeah, so let's watch it.
My dad grabbed a knife and cut open the cardboard box from Amazon. He took out a flat black disc and held it up like a trophy. This is RoboVac. He's going to vacuum for us. He plugged the black wire into a socket and it instantly started sucking up all the crumbs from the carpet. I turned red with anger. Dad, vacuuming our house is the only thing that makes me any money. He shrugged. Sorry, kid. You've been replaced with AI. I clenched my fists because I was 2 Saturdays away from having enough money for my dream dirt bike. And that thing had to go. The second he drove off, I grabbed the old vacuum and challenged RoboVac to a race. I pushed the vacuum around the room until my shirt was soaked with sweat. But RoboVac cleaned in calm little circles, and every circle it cleaned was another $10 it took out of my pocket. I screamed, "Ugh, how did you even win?" I sprinted outside and threw it into the pool. When I saw it under the water, I patted myself on the back. You cooked, but it beeped and made its way back to the grass. I watched it blink up at me as it spoke, "I am indestructible." But I rolled up my sleeves, glared, and said, "I'm not going to stop until you're finished." My neighbor's kid was watching over the fence the whole time, and he yelled, "Yo, could that thing clean our house?" My face lit up because that was my light bulb moment. I posted an ad on Facebook offering to rent it out to neighbors, and I put the price as $80 per hour. I laughed evilly because I was renting it for even more money than it cost, and I knew my dad would love this idea. By Saturday, there were 4 neighbors on my porch waving 20s, and RoboVac was already humming across our neighbor's living room. Sometimes when it sees me, it blinks up and says, "I am indestructible." But now I just laugh and show it a photo of my dirt bike. Yeah, and now you're on payroll. Sorry, AI, but you've been outsmarted by a human. My dad grabbed... I handed the keys to my Lambo to the valet. "Be careful with this." "Of course, sir. She won't move an inch." But as I walked into the restaurant, my phone buzzed with a dash cam alert, and I opened a live feed of the valet flying the Lambo down the street. My jaw dropped. I immediately waved a taxi over, jumped in, and pointed through the windshield. "Follow that car. I borrowed that car from my father-in-law. If I can't return it in one piece, I'm cooked." The driver looked at me, nodded, and took off behind it. My eyes kept jumping between the windshield and the feed. He swerved my car through traffic, then pulled over, and I sighed, thinking he was just going to park it. But then a guy in a hoodie hopped into my passenger seat and planted his sneakers on my dash. My grip nearly cracked my phone. The taxi driver glanced at my screen. "Wait, that's live?" I nodded, and he leaned into the wheel, weaving between lanes like it was his car out there. The valet swung into a drive-thru, and I watched him order a milkshake out of my window while my jaw slowly tightened. He revved my engine at the next red light, and every rev, I gripped the seat harder. But then we pulled up right beside the Lambo. I was close enough to knock on my own window, but the stupid valet was too busy showing his friend how my seats reclined all the way back. The taxi driver looked at me. I just shook my head. Not yet. Then the feed showed him dropping his friend and turning onto a familiar street. I grinned because he was looping back to the lot. I told the driver, "Cut down that side street and drop me at the valet stand first." I straightened my jacket, held my phone flat against my leg, and waited. A minute later, the Lambo rolled in. I watched him wipe my seats with his sleeve and spray cologne over everything his friend touched. Then he jogged over, dropped my keys into my hand, and smiled. "She never moved an inch, sir." I closed my fist around the keys, but just as I was about to show him the recording, a voice came from behind him. "She never moved an inch?" The valet spun around, and my father-in-law was standing there, holding up his own phone. Both me and the valet went white in the fact at the same time. My father-in-law plucked his keys out of my hand. "My car, my dash cam. Who do you think gets the alerts? I'm suing whoever drove it." I leaned in close to the valet. Turns out, I'm not the one who's cooked. Behind me, the taxi driver honked twice on his way out. I handed the keys to my...
Oh, okay.
I laid down in the hammock I'd spent all afternoon setting up, enjoying the breeze, when I felt a pair of chubby fingers gripping my fabric. The neighborhood fat kid was pushing me out of the hammock, gasping, "I want it," already out of breath from just talking. He pushed me off as my face hit the dirt, and he slowly climbed into my hammock, his gargantuan stomach pointing roundly at the air as he laid down. His massive weight was already bending the trees, so I got up and told him, "Bobby, you're gonna snap my hammock." He went to say he wouldn't, but that's when the tree cracked. The hammock snapped, and Bobby crashed so hard I felt a mini tremor. I face-palmed, but Bobby just lay on the dirt in the same relaxed position with my hammock trapped under him, completely unbothered that his weight just snapped an oak tree. I kicked his flabs. "Bobby, get up," but he waved his arm. "Nah, too much effort." He placed his hands over his stomach and rolled his head back, closing his eyes. I grabbed my hammock and pulled as hard as I could, but immediately realized this was something King Arthur couldn't pull out.
Okay, so now we're gonna watch...
Me and my little sister
My bully's fist caught me right in the jaw, and I hit the floor. From across the alley, a shaky voice called out, "Kid, you're dropping your hands when you flinch." Brett spit on the ground next to me and walked off laughing with his friends. I pushed myself up and saw an old man sitting on a milk crate at the back of the alley. When someone throws a punch, you gotta keep your hands up and be ready to swing back. Nobody had ever talked about Brett like he was something I could fix. I walked over to him. "He's been beating on me since 7th grade. He's too strong. I don't think it's ever gonna stop." The old man nodded once. "I can make it stop. Come back tomorrow." Next to him was a shopping cart, and a faded boxing belt was sticking out the top. This guy was the real deal. Summer had just started, and I had nothing to lose, so I showed up the next morning at 6. He had me throw my first punch and grabbed my wrist before it landed. "Hands up. You drop them. You die." After that, I came back every single day. He'd made punching bags out of garbage bags filled with sand and tied them to the chain link fence. He had me run laps around the empty lot until I threw up in the bushes, then sent me back out for more. A month in, he started throwing punches back at me, and I learned to duck and block them instead of taking them in the face. I started waking up before my alarm just to get to the alley. By August, he was holding up his own slippers and telling me to hit them as hard as I could, and the cracks were so loud people walking by flinched. The day before school started, he wiped his forehead and nodded. "You're ready, kid." First day back, Brett walked past me in the hallway and slapped the books out of my hands. The whole hall stopped to watch. I wasn't gonna fight him over a stack of books, so I picked them up and kept walking. But a girl from my biology class stepped between us and called Brett pathetic. He spun on her, raised his fist, and pulled back to swing. I heard the old man in my head, "Hands up." My hand shot up before I told it to and caught Brett's fist in my palm. His eyes went huge. He swung again with his other hand, and I ducked under it. I buried my fist in his gut, and as he folded over, I threw the overhand right the old man had drilled into me 100 times. Brett hit the lockers and slid all the way down to the floor. The whole hallway went silent. The girl just stared at me with her mouth open. "Where'd you learn that?" I looked down at my hands, still up. An old man taught me some tricks. My bully's fist caught me right in the... My back hit the canvas in round 1 of my first pro fight, and from the corner I heard the old man yell, "Get up!" I dragged myself to my knees as the old man banged on the canvas with both fists. "You got expelled for dropping that school bully. If you hadn't dropped your hands, you wouldn't have gotten knocked down. Now get up." I spit blood and looked across the ring. The kid was twice my weight and 4 years older, rolling his shoulders waiting for me to stand. I forced myself up, and he caught me again before the bell saved me. I lost the fight in front of 50 people. That night, I walked back to the alley with a black eye. The old man was waiting on his crate. I dropped down next to him. "I quit. I'm done." He didn't look up. "Now you know what it feels like. You let me sign that fight knowing I'd lose. Every fighter loses, kid. The good ones get up. The great ones never stop getting up." I stared at the ground. Then I got up and asked him when training started in the morning. I trained twice as hard. I ran road work at 4 a.m. with my breath fogging out in the cold. I sparred at 6 with anyone who'd take a round with me. I hit the heavy bag until my knuckles bled through the wraps and the sun went down. A year later, I won my first fight by knockout, then 10 more after that. The old man held the slippers up for me every morning until he couldn't. After that, he sat on his crate and watched me hit the bags. His cough got worse every month. Then one morning, I showed up to the alley and his cart was there, but he wasn't. I found him in the back of the gas station, on the floor where my bully had once laid me out. He was gone. I sat down next to him on the floor and didn't move until the sun came up. I'm gonna come back a champion. I trained alone for a year. They called my name for a title shot. Round 1, I caught him with a jab, and he came back with one that swelled my eye shut. Round 4, I caught him with a hook, but he came back with a body shot that cracked something. Round 8, a cut had opened over my eye, and the ref kept looking at the doctor. I had the champ on the ropes anyway. Round 11, the champ caught me with a left hook, and my back hit the canvas. I heard the old man in my head, "Get up." I got up. He came at me with a hook, and I slipped under it. I buried my fist in his gut, and as he folded over, I threw the overhand right the old man had drilled into me 100 times. They put the belt around my waist, and I held it up to the lights to show the old man who was watching me from heaven. Then I grabbed the mic. The only reason I'm here is because an old man taught me how to get up. My back hit the canvas and I heard a kid hit the pavement right outside my gym, walked out, and found 3 older boys laughing over him. The kid was curled up holding his ribs as I crossed the parking lot. The biggest one turned and the color drained out of his face. "Yo, that's the champ." He grabbed his friends. "We're out." They took off. I helped the kid to his feet. "You okay?" He nodded but kept his eyes down. I patted him on the back. "You gotta keep your hands up." He looked up at me. "Can you teach me?" I thought about the old man and how he'd taught me when I got bullied. I tipped my head toward the door. "Come inside." He showed up the next morning before we opened, and he came back every afternoon for 2 weeks. He flinched the first time I threw a punch at him. I used to do the same thing. I taught him to plant his feet, throw a jab, keep his guard up. He stopped flinching, and his jab started snapping back to his face. One afternoon, he was leaving the gym when the same 3 boys jumped him in the parking lot. I started toward the door, but he caught the first punch and threw a jab back that connected. The biggest one swung wide. He slipped under it and dropped him with a body shot. The other 2 backed up and ran. He came back inside, breathing hard, knuckles bleeding. "I want to be a world champ, just like you." I shook my head and smiled. "Then you got a lot of work to do, kid." His eyes drifted past me. He pointed at the back wall. 2 belts hung side by side, my championship belt and an old faded one next to it. "Whose is that one?" he asked. I lowered my mitts and looked at the faded belt for a long moment. "Belonged to an old man I once knew." The kid kept staring. I swung the mitt and caught him on the side of the face. He hit the mat. "Hands up, kid. You drop them, you die." He looked up at me. I tapped the mitt against my palm. "Get up." He pushed himself off the mat and raised his guard. I heard a kid hit the... My back hit the canvas. My bully's
Oh, nice.
My twin brother... I knocked out the smallest, weakest kid in school. While I was bench pressing, he cracked my ribs with a 5-pound dumbbell and smiled. That was Chester. He was 4'11", 85 pounds, and was the worst bully I ever met. His 2 brothers were 6'6", 300 pounds of pure muscle. Nobody touched Chester because they were terrified of his big brothers. I told the teacher, but he never believed that Chester had the strength to actually hurt anyone. I walked around with 2 cracked ribs for 3 months and couldn't laugh without wincing. A week later, my history teacher stepped out. Chester whispered into my ear, "Have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" Then he stabbed a pencil an inch deep into my back. I bled out onto the floor and everyone gasped. I needed 7 stitches. My teacher asked the class if anyone saw it. Every single student looked away. Chester smiled again. He was loving this power. PE baseball. Chester slammed a metal bat across my knee. I limped for a month. I still feel it when it rains. I didn't tell my mom. I didn't tell anyone. I knew I had to handle this myself. So I started kickboxing. 5 days a week for 6 months straight. I sparred with semi-pros. Got beaten up badly at first. Then slowly started landing shots and earned their respect. I stored every one of Chester's hits in the back of my mind. I had a college scholarship and couldn't afford to risk losing it, so I waited for the last day of school. I walked up to him and said, "Hey Chester, have you ever felt a tiger's claw?" He looked confused. Before he could say a word, I threw everything, punches, kicks, elbows, and laid him out on the concrete, unconscious, bleeding out of his smug face. A crowd gathered and went completely silent. Then his 2 brothers pushed through the crowd and got in my face. "Try that shit on us. Go ahead, try it." I looked up at both of them and said, "You might kill me, but I'll take one of you with me to the grave. I swear it." They went quiet, glanced at each other, then walked away. For as big as they were, they had never actually been tested. Chester had 17 broken bones and ate through a straw for 4 months. No charges were pressed because even his own parents knew he had it coming. When I think about that day, I still get the warm and fuzzies. I